Welcome you. Okay, there we go. We got the recording. Now we can start. I want to welcome you to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living's midweek service, our Wednesday Oasis. And we're glad to have you here. And we have a lovely evening planned for you. So buckle up, Buttercup, and just enjoy the time together tonight. And, some might ask, what is Wednesday night service Oasis? What does it mean? Well, it's a place where we can come together as a beloved community to be spiritually refreshed between Sunday service. It's a midweek pick-me-up. Most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday, last Sunday, like just a few days ago. And so did I introduce myself? No, I didn't. Okay, so I'm your host tonight. I'm Reverend Sunshine Michelle Coleman, and I'm the Senior Minister of OCSL. And last Sunday, I introduced the idea inspired by the talk title, The Internal Song, which is our CSL global theme for the month, the day, but for the month, it's Living Out Loud. I'm sorry, no, it's Root and Reboot. For January. For the whole year of 2023, it's Living Out Loud. So last Sunday again was the internal song, and Reverend Sally Bartholomew is going to add her ideas to that theme and that topic tonight. So you're in for a treat. We present our Wednesday night services in the satsang style, building off the principles and practices shared during the previous Sunday service, as I mentioned, with the intention that these gatherings be informal and intimate and interactive, a really rich time. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have a great time. I'm glad to be the host. Reverend Sally is usually the host, but since she's speaking tonight, I offered to host on her behalf. So I'm glad to be with you for my first Wednesday night as host. We want to welcome anyone who's new to our Wednesday night service. If you're new to our community, we invite you to visit our homepage at oaklandcsl.org, and you can click on I'm new. You'll see an icon that says I'm new. It might talk to you. And look at the lower left-hand corner of that page to submit your email address. And once you do that, you'll begin receiving our weekly village newsletter, which is chock full of great information about what's going on in our community. And we look forward to having you on our list so you can know what's happening in the upcoming weeks. Just a couple housekeeping notes before we get started with the talk. Please keep yourself on mute, and your video cameras during the service, you can turn those off. And then we'll have a time later on for you to turn them on. But this kind of keeps the focus and preserves the energetic for our speaker. And let's see, in the quality of our recording. So we want you to stay tuned through the end of the service to receive special and important announcements of some of the things that are going on in our community. And I must say how proud I am to know and to be a part of this community that we're doing these great things and more to come. There's more that we're going to be doing, so you want to stay tuned and stay plugged in. So now it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce Reverend Sally Bartholomew, who is a member of Oakland Center for Spiritual Living for quite some time. She's a licensed minister in Centers for Spiritual Living, and she's also the senior minister of her own focus ministry in CSL called, drumroll, Consciousness Caravans. It's so exciting. And she has an upcoming gig with Consciousness Caravans where on February 18th, she's going to be at CSL Bakersfield. She's going to do a workshop on Saturday, and the title of the workshop is Spiritual Driving Lessons. Sounds great. And then she will do the Sunday talk the next day on the CSL theme. So good luck on that, Reverend Sally. That sounds really interesting. Today again is our internal song. The topic is the internal song. And before we do anything, as we always do in any center that we're in and in most gatherings that we do, we open in prayer. So Reverend Sally, if you would do us the honor of opening us in prayer.
I am very happy to open us up in prayer. So I invite us to close our eyes, turn within, do whatever it is you need to do to allow yourself to be centered. So as I center within, I'm opening myself to the one power, the one presence, the one divine universal song that is living itself in, through, and as everything. It is love. It is harmony. It is joy. It is peace. It is order. It is creativity. And it is revealing itself in, through, and as everything, all sentient beings, all form. For there is nothing that is not of this divine essence and energy, this vibration, the one, the only. And so knowing that this vibration is and that I am of it, I know this truth for each and every beloved on this call, that we are all of it. We are all living its life as ourselves. And knowing this, I am simply grateful to know that we get to live joy. We get to live love. We get to live creativity and abundance. We get to sing our internal song. And so I know that this evening is blessed, for it is already full, whole, perfect, and complete in the mind and heart of God. And I am grateful for this opportunity to continue this conversation. And if you are in agreement with me in any of this, I invite you to seal this prayer with me by saying, and so it is.
So it
And
is.
so it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Reverend Sally. And with that, here we're going to open the door and spread out the red carpet for you to talk to us about the internal song.
All right. Well, thank you. And hello, Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. I am glad that you chose to join me here this evening. Those of you that are here tonight, and those of you who will come later and view this recording. As Reverend Sunshine has said, we have 3 themes that we're going to be kind of interweaving into this conversation in one way or another this evening. The annual theme is living out loud, which is what we're doing. The monthly theme is root and reboot. And that's our way of getting into the basics and rebooting ourselves. And then this evening, we're going to be talking about this idea that Reverend Sunshine introduced last Sunday of the internal song. So I'd like to start with a quote from one of my teachers in ministerial school, Dr. Tom Sanner. And he used this quote in his summary of how to use the science of mind. And he says, wherever the individual mind links itself with the universal harmony, it becomes a spontaneous proclamation of that harmony, now individualized. I invite you to breathe that idea in. This idea that there is a harmony, a universal song that we can link into. And when we do, we are individualizing itself as ourselves. So we have an affirmation for this week. And it is, today, my life harmonizes with the song of the one. And I've added the universal song. So you might ask the question, what does it mean to harmonize? Well, one definition of this word harmonize is to make consistent or compatible. to coordinate, match, fit, or blend. Interesting. So the question that I'd like to explore tonight is, what are we? You could say it, what am I harmonizing with? Well, one of the science of mind principles is freedom. And it states that we are free to choose and create our experience of life. Now, most of us would consciously choose to create joyful, inspired, uplifting, and creative lives. And while this is certainly true, have you ever noticed that glorious voice of freedom doesn't always feel present? It can feel muted, like maybe you've not quite dialed it in on the radio station of life. Well, what we discover is that our thoughts are a collection of not only our personal experience, but the thoughts of the collective unconscious of the world itself. Now, this year, we're actually using the reference of the science of mind. And so I'm going to reference it here. In it, Ernest tells us, under the heading of science, superstition, and common sense, that Sigmund Freud, a renowned psychologist, said that we are prone to repeat neurotic, morbid thought patterns with monotonous regularity throughout life, unless they are changed, shifted. And Freud was referring to what we call the unconscious and what we call the subjective state of our thought. What about you in your life? Have you noticed that you occasionally have some neurotic, morbid thought patterns that tend to repeat themselves continually in your mind? Well, don't worry about it. Ernest goes on to tell us that Carl Jung, another renowned psychologist, he added to this the idea, the thought that we are subject to the influence of what Jung called the collective unconscious, again, unconscious, not in the awareness, which means this influence, it's from the sum total of all human emotions. So not only thoughts, but emotions, and emotions are really just energy in motion. So it's a reaction, it's a response to these thoughts. And this idea that it's a sum total is these thoughts don't really go anywhere. So what about you in your life? Have you noticed that sometimes you can pick up or feel the emotions or energies that might not be your own, but they're undeniable as an experience? For example, have you ever walked into a room with a few people who are deeply engaged in a joyful conversation, and you've just been simply uplifted by being in their presence? I have. I know I have. And it's usually kids that are in that group that are joyful and uplifting. So let me give you one more idea. What about old tapes? We heard this idea of old tapes or hidden beliefs from Reverend Sunshine in her talk on Sunday. This idea is, they're the voices of our parents, teachers, or other significant individuals in our lives who, when they gave us this information that tends to run in an old tape, they were really trying to keep us safe from harm. They were trying to guide us in what they thought was best, however unskillfully they may have been doing this process. So the problem arises when these voices later become internalized as a beating drum that undermines one's freedom of choice with its consistent staccato beat. That beat can become so loud and so forceful that we might not be able to fully hear or feel the truth. That we could have other choices or options. It can drown out that still small voice of intuition that we generally hear within our heart space that has a beat of its own, even though not so loud and insistent. That voice of intuition, it originates from our authentic self. Now, unpacking and identifying which thoughts are from the collective and learning to listen for the truth that is our divine life. That's one of the gifts of the religious science principles and practices that we're taught here at the Oakland Center. One of the greatest of these gifts is affirmation and spiritual mind treatment. Now, all through this month of January, we've been rooting ourselves in these basic principles. Each speaker has talked on this topic, and we're rebooting our practice of using affirmations, spiritual mind treatment, mirror work. So each week we're given a new affirmation to try. And I'd like to give you that affirmation again. Today, my life harmonizes with the song of one, the universal song. And I ask again, what are we harmonizing with? Well, let's consider the idea that our thoughts emulate the divine flow by creating vibrations. Some support along this line of thought comes from Reverend Michael Beckwith. And he tells us that we must take total responsibility for what we're magnetizing based on our inner longings. He asks us, are you operating from a sense of looking for fulfillment and getting and taking, coming from a place of lack or not having? Or are you operating from a sense of shining and radiating and giving and sharing, coming from your true radiant self? With what are you harmonizing? Reverend Sunshine asked us on Sunday to consider how we might create a healing vibrational resonance. I loved it when I was writing down my notes and I'm like, wait, what was that phrase she said? Healing vibrational resonance with others in community by getting in touch with, revealing and coming from our own authentic self-expression. Now, she spoke of a field and her own theory, and I love this word, awe, A-W-E, then integrity. Now, I'm not going to go into her explanation of it. I invite you to go watch the service on YouTube. She reminds us of the mirror work that we can do to help us get into touch with this authentic self, to uncover the individualized divine divinity that we are, that we were before we were socialized, before we were domesticated. All of that is our authentic self that we came into this existence with. Now, I recently watched a documentary that explored the idea that as babies, we come into this life not as blank slates, but already knowing our divinity. If not the individual song we might sing here, we are born with propensities and preferences that light us up. Some of us love to sing. That wouldn't be me. In the movie Happy Feet, it was known that everyone was born with their own heart song. And in that movie, everybody had to sing. Well, the truth is that not everybody does everything the same way. Not everyone comes with those same gifts. And so in the movie, Mumble, the hero of the movie, could not sing at all, but he could dance, couldn't help himself from dancing. So again, the question for this evening is, and I'm hoping you're letting it rumble around in your mind, what ideas, thoughts, emotions are you harmonizing with? Now, I'd like us to take a few moments to reflect internally and ask ourselves that question. What ideas and activities caught your attention and made your heart sing as a child? Now, I can tell you, I could spend hours thoroughly engaged in playing with playing cards on the kitchen floor, building shapes and designs and building towers of cards. I could spend hours of time playing at the creek, looking for tadpoles and fish and crabs. I could spend hours of time reading up in the tree. So which of these things that you did as a child that lit you up from within are you still engaging with today? Often we can find clues to the melody of our internal song by paying attention to what brings us joy and a sense of freedom. What is it that seems to make time disappear for you now? These are clues to your internal song. Reverend Sunshine shared that our internal song, it's like a signature or our fingerprints. No other person, and as she said, even twins, no other person has one exactly like yours. My life is an individualized melody of the one universal song of life. If I am not singing my unique song, then the harmony of the universal song is lessened. Now that's something to think about. This glorious universal song can't be all that it is unless you are all that you are. Now, when I was jotting down my notes while listening to Reverend Sunshine's talk, I noticed that the phrase internal song could be symbolized with just the two letters I and S, or is. God is. Now there's a song, it's called the God Song. I invite you to look it up. I'm not going to play it this evening, but the words of the God Song is, I'm the love that God is. I'm the love that God is. is my internal song is God. One of my favorite go-to prayers is known as the Tool prayer, Tool. And that's because the words are, there is only one life. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is good. That life is my life now. Now, I will tell you that I love this prayer so much that I have made it into scarves using Morse code so that I could keep it wrapped around me. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is good. That life is my life now. Now that's a chorus that I could sing again and again and again. So living out my internal song, I have found joy and inspiration in things I loved as a child, reading, crochet, beading, taking classes. I am really looking forward to Reverend Sunshine's classes coming up. These are activities that light me up. And the more I do them, the more I know that I am living my internal song. So as I bring the talk portion of this evening to a close, let me share with you that today, I invite you to be bold in your expression of life. I invite you to state clearly and with conviction that the one life is your life today. That you step forward into this life with confidence, knowing that everything that is necessary to reach its fulfillment is revealed and brought before you. You are always working in the realm of thought. And therefore, we remind ourselves that we are practitioners. We are practitioners of this thing called the science of mind and religious science. Ernest told us that conscious, trained thought is more powerful than unconscious, untrained thought. When we are conscious that we are practitioners, then we make careful use of the words that support us and those around us. Even amid goodness, there is always room for more. Not from a place of greed, but rather from a place of giving from the overflow. When we are swimming in the life of abundance, there is great opportunity to create beauty and peace and love in the world. The world needs whatever it is that you are, whatever it is that lights you up. And the fullness of your expression is a gift that continues to keep the circle spiraling upward. We can choose to share our abundance with others by engaging in good works of all kinds that serve humanity, by making the choice for freedom. Today, my life harmonizes with the song of the one, the universal song. What is your life harmonizing with? And so now I'd like to open it up for discussion. What is your life harmonizing with? Constance, I see your hand up.
Well, I just want to talk about that, for me, when you talk about the conditioning and what I loved as a child, it's taken me 75 years to get to the point where I can actually accept what it is that makes my heart sing, because I was so discouraged as a child from doing it, which was artwork. That my mom was a trained artist, and somehow she decided that I was going to be the cook and my sister was going to be the artist. And so every time I would make a foray into it, I would basically get basically ignored. I remember in middle school, I had an art class and we were doing paper mache, and I made a paper mache purple people eater. Do you remember that song? Anyone old enough to remember that song? And I just loved that purple people eater. I had so much fun. It had a big snout and it had all these purple dots on it, much like some of the paintings that have shown up in my life recently. And I took it home and it was just sort of like, there was no reaction to it at all. So that was sort of, so I didn't get, and so it wasn't until my 30s that I took the first art class, and I loved it, but I couldn't allow myself. There was too much conditioning. So it really took me until my 70s, after spending a lot of time doing my practitioner work and looking at some of that stuff, that I was actually able to say, yes, I'm an artist. And yes, that's what, and I still find that when I paint, I go into another realm, and it still takes a while for I'm still learning that it takes, that's almost like my nervous system. I have to just little incrementally let my nervous system get used to that joy so that I can do it longer and longer periods of time. So it's an interesting, this whole thing about authenticity is just fascinating, because some people get to it a lot earlier than others, and I'm just very grateful I got there.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for bringing that awareness to the forefront here, that, many of us don't carry it forward from childhood. Many of us have it buried underneath the collective thoughts and conditioning that we take on. And isn't it interesting that your internal song won't let you go
yeah,
until you're
yeah,
living it out loud,
right.
which
And
is
there
the
are
annual
other
theme.
things. Yeah, there are other things, like, like I read a lot as a kid, and I still love reading, and I love to swim. And it was just last summer that I found um, a place in San Leandro swim club that has a swimming pool that's open 12 months of the year outdoors. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is why California is such a good place. But it wasn't until I could find myself in water that I could say, yeah, now I'm home again. So
Yes.
it is interesting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. That internal song calls and calls and calls. I think it's Wayne Dyer who says, don't die with your music still in you. So your music is escaping. Anyone else? Questions? Dodie, I see your hand up. Wait, you're muted.
That was a wonderful talk, Reverend Sally. And I was trying to remember as a child what was so special, but I grew up with a big family, so we played everything. I mean, just play, and we didn't have anything, you would have extra toys. These things were like marbles and hopscotch and jump rope and little things like that. Didn't cost any money, but it was ton of love. So the energy from that is what I remember so much more than a specific thing that brought something out. And I'm saying that to say that as I think about that, I recognize that stuff like that, you allow yourself to settle down because you said, well, this isn't perfect. So this isn't good enough, or this isn't right. So I won't even talk about this, or I won't say it because I may make a mistake. And if I make the mistake, that would be terrible. So to feel yourself in the energy of when you were just doing something and it didn't have that value lines on it.
Yes, yeah.
It's an amazing feeling, and it's a truth that can shift you. But in my case, it had blocked lots of stuff because I've always been as active as I know how, but I'm cautious when I talk, when I present. I don't want to mess up. I don't want that feeling in me, but it is. So I work on it. So I'm complete.
Thank you. And I recognize from our conversations in the Dr. Dan devotional time that I see that energy coming out in you as we're having those discussions. So yes, thank you for sharing that energy of play with us.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Anyone else? What are you harmonizing with? What's being stirred up by this idea that you have an internal song that's forever calling you to share your gift? Dr. Judith.
Well, my internal song is song.
Mhm.
As a, I think it's because my mother had such a beautiful voice, which only took place in synagogue music. She sang in the choraleers, the manual choraleers, but she loved it. She loved singing, and she had an amazing voice, which one person said that she sounded like a cello herself.
Oh.
And my sister got a beautiful soprano voice, and I had I don't know, second soprano or something like that. But I sang in choir when I was in high school, and the gift in life is that I would go to see my sister every summer because I was a school bus driver. And so I got, for 12 years, you don't always get to see your siblings unless you live near them. But I got to go and see her for a full summer because I was off in the summer. And we always sang. We're always at least a couple of times when, we would sing together, but sometimes we had other people who liked to sing and we came, and I play a little guitar, but I didn't focus on becoming an excellent guitar player. So it was just to accompany singing. And I had that as a kid, and some of the things I've dropped by the wayside. I'm just thinking about that. I was a tomboy growing up, and so I like to play, baseball if I had a chance, or softball. And actually, there was a period when I was young when I liked to fight with boys, and beat them up. So that was kind of, I've dropped that. That's gone by the wayside. I still like, when I was treating people for their injuries and trying to get them to do exercises, I could speak from an authentic place where I like to exercise. Mm-hmm. And so that helped in how I treated people, because it was a real thing. I liked exercise myself, running and other things. And so that kind of energy is still with me today at 76. And I have to get back to it because I spent several years where I forgot who I was. And I thought, and I began to think of myself as someone, because I had, whoa, there goes my iPad. I had, I had over a period of 4 years or so, or 5 years, I got sick with this, and I got sick with that, and I got sick with that. And I changed my attitude. My attitude began to shift. I forgot about that part of myself, that's part of my harmony and using my body in that way. And I'm regaining it now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I like it. You know, I don't, when I go for walks, I don't go because I have to, you know, or I should. It's not a should. It's always like,
Mhm.
this is great. So some things have gone by the wayside. Some things I'm reclaiming now. But music is there. There's a small part of my heart that hopes that we have a choir again. And I go back and forth and I write music sometimes.
Mhm.
And for every class that I took at the center, there's always a project for the end of class.
Mm.
But I always wrote a song just because that was me. I mean, it wasn't asked for, but it seemed to work out okay. So that's something that I'm trying to get back to as well. And that I feel that harmony, I feel a connection. I feel closer to God when I'm singing
Mhm.
or if I'm writing something, you know?
Mm.
So anyway, that's, it's okay. There was a certain point where I started thinking, I'm too old to do blah, blah, you know? You know, I'm not too old to take that joy and still go with it. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes I just walk
Absolutely.
around the house singing. You know, I know a lot of songs, spiritual and otherwise. I know many, many songs. And I just walk around singing them. And that day, that's a great day when I do that.
Yes.
So
yes.
anyway, I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Judith, for reminding us, for giving us that awareness that age is just a number, and that internal song is forever playing in, through, and as you, and escapes as music. How lovely that is. Yeah,
Right.
thank
It's
you.
internal song.
And Dr. Judith, she does that at our Dr. Dan. She'll
Oh,
She
right.
does.
know something we've been talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
So are
I
you
love
going to
the
start the
idea that
Dr.
we
Dan
get to.
choir?
Wow.
I like that idea, the Dr. Dan choir.
That's a wonderful idea. Woo. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else with a thought that they'd like to share about what they're harmonizing with, what their internal song is calling them to sing or do or be? Oh, I like Reverend Jerry's got in the text here in the chat. Don't let your age be your cage. Yes, I like that.
Whoa. My age be my cage. Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to say something else about age. For my last, since at 70, I started at 75. I looked at that age and I said, wow, 3/4 of a century. That's cool. Okay. And then when I was 76, somehow that song from the musical, I said, okay, I can be like the 76 trombones. Okay. I hadn't come across what to do with 77, which is coming up at the end of this month. But someone who was a young friend, she said, well, 70, 77, sevens are lucky. You got double sevens. Now I have another way to think of this whole next year. So anyway, done. I'm done.
Fabulous. Thank you. Reverend Jerry, I see your hand is up.
Hello. I know there's not a lot of time, but I just
Love
wanted,
the glasses.
I know I was making notes. Thank you for the lovely talk this evening, Reverend Sally. And I wanted to kind of piggyback real quickly on what Dr. Judith was sharing, because for years, I never thought I had a voice. I loved to sing. I'd sing to the music on the radio and I'd sing and sing, but I never really cultivated a singing voice, I didn't think, until I joined a choir. And when I joined the Clarewood Singers, I learned so much about music and about tuning in to sound. And as a second soprano, I felt very supported by the sopranos around me, and I learned so much. And what I really appreciated most about being in a choir and singing was that it was like a singing prayer always, going to choir practice. It was just, a beautiful experience. And so that was something I thought I never had within me. And I learned that it truly was there when I let go and and joined in. So
Allowed it, yes.
thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you. It's amazing what we can do when we let go of that domestication, the socialization, and the worry about, who's going to think what when we do something. So I've got in the chat here, Reverend Sunshine says, Dr. Judith, your comment fit my flip it model. Love it. Way to go. All right. Well, I'm thinking, unless there's someone with a burning comment to make, that we are complete with our talk and our discussion this evening, and I will hand it over to Reverend Sunshine.
Yay. I mean, let's give some snaps and claps to Reverend Sally. That was an awesome talk. And you were listening. You were listening to everything I said. Oh my goodness. I love that, how you integrated a lot of the points that I made. And I'm really delighted that, that you were able to build off of that, because you did it in a lovely, lovely way. So thank you so much for that. Well, now we're at the time, friends, for a couple of announcements. You'll want to stay for this. Don't leave. I'll be speaking this Sunday, January 22nd, on singing with gratitude, which is a favorite topic of mine, gratitude and Thanksgiving. I just love it, love it, love it. Meditation is at 10 and service is at 10:30. And as you'll see in tomorrow's Village News that Constance is putting out, there are multiple ways for you to join us in service, either by coming to the center, but if you can't do that, you can pipe in on YouTube. And if you can't do that, then you can come back and hear the recording. And if you can't, if you have little ones that you can't really come to the service, you can go watch in the nursery. We have a TV in there, or you can watch in the social hall. We have lots of ways for you to participate in the service. So please do avail yourself to that. And we have another great service next Wednesday at Oasis. This is January 25th, next Wednesday, and our own dear Reverend Jerry Carter, who's on with us tonight, will present her ideas about singing with gratitude. So I can't wait to hear what she has to say. And just as a reminder, meditation starts at 6:30, as it did tonight, and service is at 7. And Rev Deb, obviously you have to do the zone translation because you're on the East Coast. So those are Pacific times. So we're having a good time at Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, and you don't want to miss it. I'm just trusting that the slides are matching what I'm saying, because I'm not looking at the slides. Peter's going to tell me if I'm offbeat, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm just knowing we're in divine alignment. That's how Spirit works. We have for this month in January, our nonprofit partner is the Jewish Family and Community Services. And we have a barrel out that's at the center to help collect items that they need. And so if you have some of those items that are listed there before the end of the month, you can drop them in the barrel, which is a great service and contribution to the great work that they do for their people, especially for refugees in the Bay Area. And you can find more information about that in the Village News. All right, let's see. And it's on our website as well. We have, drumroll, 10 more days until our vision board party on January 28th. And our fabulous Deborah Jackson, who I believe is still on, she's on with us tonight, has been doing this for some years. So I am so sorry I'm going to miss it because I have a previously scheduled engagement because I wanted to make another vision board. I'm big on vision boards. I've done them myself, led parties myself. That event starts at 11:30 and it goes to in the morning and it goes to 4. It's on a Saturday. The cost is $50 and it includes all the supplies and the food and lots of fun. So you can't beat that. And so please avail yourself to it. All the proceeds go to the center. Seating is limited, so you can sign up at oaklandcsl.org on our events page. And after that, we have 2 classes coming up, both of which I'm teaching. It's kind of a little mini series, although you can take them individually. They're shorter classes. They're 4 weeks each. The first one is on living what we believe through our Declaration of Principles. It's going to be on Thursdays starting on February 2nd. And the second class is the Art of Active Listening. And that one runs on Thursdays also, same time frame for 4 weeks. And that one starts on March 9th. Each class is from 6:30 in the evening to 8 p.m. It's a 90-minute class, each one. And each class is $120 for the 4 weeks. If you sign up for both classes at the same time, you receive a 20% discount. So you might as well just join me for both, you know? But you have to sign up by January 24th for the first one, which is going to start at the 1st of February. So Living What We Believe, the deadline for registration is January 24th, which is next Tuesday. So please join me on those classes. Then we have another great class with our own Reverend Jerry and Reverend Catherine Sachs. They are co-facilitating the Women's Spiritual Empowerment Group. It's coming back. I've heard so much about it. People are really excited that it's coming back. So I was excited to invite Jerry to facilitate it. It's a 6-week class or a support group, whatever you want to call it. It starts on February 5th from 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. And that's on Sundays. And you can check our events page on oaklandcsl.org and sign up. You can check the dates of the classes and be sure and sign up for that. You can stay after a few minutes afterwards tonight if you have any questions about any of these classes of Reverend Jerry, Deborah, or myself, or you can, catch us when you see us or write us an email or something if you have. But basically, just sign up for all this stuff. That's why we're offering it. And next, Ernie Baby. Who said that? Somebody called him Ernie Baby. Anyway, that has just gone viral. We take such liberty with Dr. Ernest Holmes. We were talking about if he walked into our center right now, he would be a dignitary, and we would certainly treat him with the utmost respect, but we affectionately call him Ernie. So you can take him home with you at the bookstore. We're having 30% off sale all of January, which you only have a couple weeks left, for any Ernest Holmes books. That is fabulous, including 365 Science of Mind and some of the other daily readers. So take advantage of that. And as always, for information about anything that's going on at Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, you can visit our website, oaklandcsl.org. And you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. As we mentioned, when you go onto the website, click I'm new if you're not already on the newsletter distribution, and you can fill that information out and you'll start getting it right away. The Thursday Village News comes out tomorrow, so watch out for that. And you can follow us on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, and be sure and like us. We have special updates and content that you'll only find by liking and subscribing to OCSL. So please be sure and do that. we have a fabulous contact team that is just can answer all your questions and about the different areas that you may need to know about. There's Constance Chapman, who is responsible for administration and education. Myself as the senior minister. We have Zoe DeMuro, who is the president of our board. Susan Brecker takes care of our facilities usage. Dow Becker is our bookkeeper, and Miss Dorothy Mendez is on tonight. She is in charge of Ministry of Prayer. So if you have any questions about anything, we can help you. Okay, now it's really time for a drum roll. We need a band here, because I've said drum roll about 4 times. Okay, so it's time for our joyous giving. Yay! I love giving. I hope you love giving too, because what does that mean? The law of circulation, you give and then you do what? You receive, and it circulates. So our joyous giving, we have lots of ways for you to give. But first, before you do anything, we'll show you those ways in just a moment. We have an affirmation that we recite together. We declare together. Don't just read it. Just even if you know the affirmation by heart, make this a new moment. You've not been in this moment before. None of us have. So let's do this fresh and new. Let us recite together our affirmation statement. Joyously, I give with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do what?
Receive.
Receive. I only heard one person. I heard a lot of voices. Receive, 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 receive. Okay, we have 5 ways for you to donate or give to Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. Your giving is so important to help the operations of our center and help us to flow in that place of prosperity so that circulation continues. You can donate by credit card, by mail, by Zelle, by text. On Sundays, the offering basket, I've started to put it up front. You can come bring it up, in that spirit of circulation. So if you're wanting to give tonight online, you can just click Oakland CSL so you bring it up on your computer and you won't forget. Don't forget, it's important for us and for you. So with that, I think that's the end of our announcements. Is that right, Peter? We're all done with the announcements.
All good.
Okay, so we go to thanks in our last 2 minutes, and Reverend Sally's going to pray us out real quick. I just want to thank Reverend Sally Bartholomew for leading us in the meditation, being our speaker, and opening up in prayer and closing us in prayer. Our Zoom team, our awesome Zoom team. We have Peter Gum, who's there in Oregon. We have Alice Herndon. We have Sabrina. I'm sorry, Sabrina, I don't know your last name. What's your last name?
Bolus.
Huh?
Bolus.
Sabrina Bolus?
Yes.
Yes. And did I miss anybody? Okay, I don't want to miss anybody. And we want to thank our awesome Constance Chapman, who always does so much for the center. So with that, you can stay afterwards if you have any questions for classes, but Reverend Sally, will you be kind enough to pray us out?
I will be. I am so grateful. So as I turn within in this place of gratitude, actually overflowing with gratitude for this discussion this evening, I am feeling gratitude for this Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, for all the many ways that we have to come together to help us to find out, to investigate, to explore with curiosity and joy our own internal songs. And we get to come together and support each other in this community of the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, and how grateful I am for this. knowing that this one life that is God is living itself in, through, and as each of us in this process, that we are created beings to be love, to be joy, to be inspiring and uplifting for and with each other. I am grateful. And so I allow this to be, knowing that as we go on to whatever is next for us today, this evening, that it is blessed simply with the resonance of our divine songs. Blessed be, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much.
So it is.
Amen. Mhm.
Hey, mm-hmm.
Good night.
That's the answer right there. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.